Hey, we are at the Adam Hartwig Memorial Road Race. This is my analysis of my own race on the Cat 4-5 race in August of 2019. This is actually my first road race, so I really kind of didn't know what to expect. Some of the race prep I did, though, was I started to do a lot more group rides, which I have never done. This is my first season ever, and this is my first road race ever. So I figured some of these group rides would have helped me quite a bit. There's a lot of strong riders in some of these group rides I go on, and they really kick my butt so that this road race can happen. I also had quite a bit of weight loss. Some of the hills in this course are not really too crazy big, but I have, within the last year and a half, lost 55 pounds. So, being my first season, losing a whole bunch of weight, getting a whole bunch of practice in, I was pretty much peak form of my life right now, and continues to increase. So the other thing I wanted to do was to survey the course. So on YouTube, there's a lot of people who post videos of prior races. It's a really good, useful method of sort of surveying the course if you can't get out there first. Lee Brouchy had actually done this race last year. I think it was like the first time they did it last year. So I sort of watched a couple laps of that. Also, Stava has a sort of course survey, which we'll show you in a minute, to kind of give an idea of when maybe to attack or when to at least try to just hang on, which you'll see. So some of the other goals I had, really sag climbing was my primary goal here because I wanted to be near the front before these hills. I lost a lot of weight, but I'm still a big guy, 6'3", 185 pounds. So these climbs where I'm racing against somebody who's 5 foot whatever and 50 pounds, it's just like I have no chance. So I want to try to be near the front before the hills, sort of let some people go around me, so that by the end of the hill, when I'm rolling down them, I have a little bit more weight and I can get going. And here you can actually see I turned my Garmin on, so we'll have some power meter data. The other thing I wanted to make sure I did was make sure I was drafting better. Some of my prior videos that you can see online sort of suck at drafting. So really in this one, I figured this was a race that you want to conserve energy on, right? A road race in particular. A 40-minute crate, yeah, you're going hardcore, but this one in particular, I really wanted to be drafting better. And then I also one of my goals was to get into a break. Just one, doesn't really matter. I needed to get into a break. That was my goal. The last couple crits, I didn't really do much attacking at all. I didn't really do anything. I just sort of sat in. And so I wanted to play the game, right? I'm trying to get to that point, and if it fails, it fails. So the course survey that they have on VeloViewer, which I thought was actually kind of cool, they kind of show you a map of, the elevation and the area. This one online was pretty straightforward. There isn't much going on this course. But again, in the beginning here, this hill that we just climbed up on in the video, that was my primary worry, was that specific hill. It wasn't that bad. But then on the back end of the course, you can see here, sort of on the back left side of this course, it gets to be a little bit more hills. So I kind of wanted to make sure I was in the front near that section, and you'll see that I actually did that pretty okay on the first lap here. So this course is 3 laps of this. And so your tactics, right, are sort of figuring out what to do, when to maybe attack or when to think to do, make some moves. There'll be a couple fast forwards on this video because it's an hour and a half long. It's not my normal 40-minute race. And so here you can see it's really pretty strung out. Look at all these guys. They're just all over the place. Nobody's sitting on each other's wheels, but I am sitting on a wheel. That is, again, one of my goals is just to make sure I'm drafting at all times. And I did that actually pretty well, because then I'm not like this guy on the left who has to bridge these gaps and make these efforts that are sort of unnecessary if you're always just sitting real close. There was one instance where I tapped a guy's back wheel when I was drafting a little too close. Made me a little nervous. but that doesn't often happen. So it's sort of like almost like the first time I think it's happened this year. Made me a little nervous, but I did very good on drafting this race. And when you do that, you obviously conserve your energy. And I was pretty worried about that with an hour and a half race. I usually do crit races that are 40 minutes, and this one's roughly an hour and a half. And so I really didn't know the differences here between crit racing and road racing, which we can kind of talk about a little bit. This guy's about to hit a corner. Oop. And he didn't flat out, but boy, that was that'd make me a little nervous. It kind of gave me a little shake. But again, zero effort here, getting back onto somebody's wheel. Literally zero effort, and now I'm drafting again. So I did pretty good on this course with drafting. But back to this idea that crit racing is different than road racing for the obvious reasons. One being crit racing on Cat 4.5s are 40 minutes, and this was a 90-minute one. Here you can see I also failed in a couple different crit races to sit on a wheel and really fight for a wheel, where if I'm sitting on that guy's wheel, it's my wheel. You want to get there like this guy maybe, you're going to have to work for it, right? And yeah, I'm not too aggressive, and he's not too aggressive here, but I want to make sure I'm on that wheel. Because if we get like in this situation where if you look ahead of us, there's some gaps opening, and I let this guy get dropped, I dropped this wheel for whatever reason. I'm not doing too much effort, maybe roughly mid 200 watts, and I sort of drift up to get back in this guy's draft. So that was roughly okay. I've been trying to temper some of those efforts to get back on wheels, but you'll see later that can be sort of a blessing and a curse, is to make sure that you're sitting on that wheel the entire time. Don't let it go, period, because then you get situations like this where there's gaps to be bridged. And this one I did pretty good. I just let him sort of bridge this gap and sit on his wheel while I could. And now there's a little bit more scary gap, so I'm going to maybe bridge up to this guy, or just, this guy's going strong, so I'm going to let him move me up there. So I put a little dig in there. And that's sort of what you got to do, right? Is got to put some digs when you need to. And if someone's going to do the effort to bring you up to where you need to be, take advantage of that. So this race is already going pretty decent, at least in my mind. I thought I'd be dropped already. I mean, honestly, this road race, I just get super nervous with hills being so big. But, I'm only, unfortunately, I don't have the time on this race. I'm not quite up to the 40-minute where my normal crit race 40-minute time is. So, it's hard to temper these efforts, or hard to judge these efforts where, when I'm normally riding 40 minutes, I'm just all out 40 minutes, surging like crazy, dive bombing corners, that whole jazz with crit racing. And so road racing, it's more of a endurance type situation. And when you have an endurance situation, you really sort of want to be tempering those efforts. And here I don't do that very well. See, I got a dropped wheel. We're doing sort of a pace line-ish, I guess, which I thought was a little interesting, because it was just the full group. And so I don't know how that works out, I guess, in road races where, why are we doing a pace line if we're all sort of battling each other and there's no really team tactics? There's maybe two teammates that you'll see later that I know of, but there might have been other teams there. I guess I wasn't certain. So anyways, here I am sitting on the front, high 200 watts, which is sort of my FTP, but I don't want to be being where I am right now. I'm out on the front. I should be drafting someone, right? There's no reason to. And then here we go. This guy is the same rider that had dropped off on the left in front of me. I don't know how he got a second pole in there. I imagine that's probably not something you want to do, is do two poles like that. I mean, this pole right here is not too big, but you can see I just want to sit on this wheel and draft like I, have, kind of told you about in the beginning. Was my goal was to conserve. So I do that pretty well. This guy, maybe he's just really strong. That's probably it. He's sitting on the front, and as we're fast forwarding here, he's doing a good dig. And so here we go. We're on the back side of that course, right? And I had said that I wanted to be sort of near the front in this section, and I hadn't previewed this course like outside of those videos, so I didn't know what this was like. They said right here where there's this quarry that there's a bunch of sand and gravel, which you'll see right here. There's a whole bunch of just crap on the ground that you wanted to avoid, and so I'm on the front. And look at my watts, 300, upper 200, so I'm already sort of FTP range. Now 4 up this hill. I'm going to let this guy sort of drift out there, and because I'm already doing 600 to get up that hill, I'm not going to be too worried about him, and like he's not too worried about me either. But why didn't I sit on this guy's wheel? I don't know. I love the color of that bike. I have a Trek Boom that has that same color. But I should have been drafted on his wheel, right? He's now on my left, and I should have been sitting on his wheel. But again, I'm on the front, so it's where I want to be in this section of the course. But you can see I'm really throwing down some power, at least in my own fitness. That was about 500. So I'm going to let, again, some of these guys drift forward. And again, I want to be a little bit further back at this point because we went up some of the bigger, or at least what I thought was probably the bigger hills, and I wanted to sit on some wheels. So here I am just drafting like I should. You can see my power is way, way less than it was for the last little bit there. And so here we go. Here we have a situation that there could be a break going on, and I want to be in a break. This is probably a little early in most road races, I imagine, for a break. I guess I'm not certain. I watched, obviously the Peloton races and pro races, but, and sometimes obviously the break goes kind of early. But here we go, 2 guys up the road. But now I'm digging. I kind of do a decent dig to get up to these guys. I don't know. I don't have a rear camera, so I don't really know what my gap is behind me. But again, trying to get into break, here I am. Cool. We're going uphill where you should be attacking. Sweet. But I'm throwing 700 watts down for that whole effort. And this guy just, he attacks because, as he should, he reaches the group and he attacks. Now, that's where I'm dead. Unfortunately here, I just couldn't go any further with that. That was a pretty hard effort, so I let the group sort of come up behind me and overtake me because I'm not going to make that group ahead of me. And so I had the chance to get in a break. I don't think they stayed away very long. But you can see here, I just die, which I think I need to start training quite a bit harder for and practicing just these efforts where you're going to throw down a lot of power for not too long a time. But this is where I lost the race, basically, here. This is the last big hill before the start-finish comes up again. And so, look at this. I have a dropped wheel. I should have been aware of that dropped wheel and jumped on it. Yeah, I'm not doing very much effort at all here, which is fine. But had I got on that wheel, I'd be sitting in someone's draft the entire way down. Or I see that wheel and I say, okay, I need to drop on that or that one. I don't know why I didn't jump on either of those. These guys are obviously tucked, so you can only go so fast. I'm only going 35. But again, why am I not jumping on these guys' wheels? I should have been looking behind me. I should have been looking ahead of me in terms of the fact that there's a whole bunch of guys now. That was the main field. And, by looking back here and there, I would have maybe been able to jump on those 2 or 3 situations where I lose the wheel on this downhill, which is sort of weird. I'm not usually one to be dropped on a downhill. So this is the last curve before the start finish, and these guys are up ahead of me. So look at this. I'm done. Little noob alert. I had an extra water bottle in my jersey that I just dropped there. I kind of yelled at the guy, "Hey, I'll pick this up when I get back." But it was a hot day, so I had 2 other water bottles on my cage. So all of a sudden, this guy comes out of nowhere. I should have been aware of him. I was pretty surprised by him, actually. It's like, oh, sweet. This guy's awesome. I'm going to draft on this guy for a while because I'm dead. Go up this hill. We take a couple turns. He did quite a bit more turns than me, and you'll see that, which is fine in the tactics side of things, but at this point in the race, if I don't work together with this guy pretty hard, we're never going to get back. And you can see that he was probably just a little bit fresher than me at this point and stronger. But I do sort of let him take maybe a little bit less or a little bit more poles. But here we get up to this guy, and I'm screaming at him. He's a guy I met a couple times at a couple different races. A guy who we talked a couple times before and after races, and I said, hey guy, jump up on my wheel. We're coming up. Come jump on this wheel. And unfortunately, he couldn't jump on our wheels. But again, that's sort of a communication thing where. And here's a communication issue. This guy is his teammate. Way back there, this guy should have maybe been screaming, hey, Joe, Mike, Bob, whoever this guy's name is, I'm coming up on you. Let up a little and we'll combine. And yeah, it wasn't that far, so maybe he's just like, hey, pat on the back. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. We can start working together. So they were probably happy to find each other. And I was happy because, yeah, they might play some team tactics on me, but honestly, they're probably going to work together more than I will to get back up to the group, or have a chance to get back up to the group. So I thought I was just going to sit here the whole time and be awesome, and I sort of mostly do, maybe up until right here where we pull up on two guys. So I just let them do the work as teammates. There's not really a reason for me to be taking a pole, unless I want to really get back and join this group, which we obviously don't do here. So we get back to the back end of this course where I want to be up towards the front again, and I do pretty decent. I'm sitting behind a guy, luckily this time. So here I am in the front, but let them pull forward again. And this guy, so the two teammates, I think there's some sort of communication that might have happened here between them that I was not really aware of. He just sort of sits up, lets me pass in front. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I think right here they maybe said, I'm going to go. You sit in the front and just sort of anchor it. Slow down, right? I got 100 watts here. You can see it's fairly slow. This is a downhill section, but he just probably let a little gap go, right? Which is what teammates do. Oh, you go. I'm going to slow down the rest of this group here. And then you get in this situation with myself where we need to sort of bridge that. Yeah, he's probably not going to go solo the whole race, but, we still need to make an effort to catch up to that guy. And again, here's another situation where the drafting is just not so great at this point in the race. This specific downhill, I just wasn't very great with. We could have been doing some work to bridge this little gap that formed ahead of us with that group. I think there's only two guys there. But now, this teammate's somebody I should have been aware of, right? So he wants to get back up to his other teammate now. And we let this wheel drop, right? I think I yelled something to this guy behind me here. Hey, we can't let this guy go because they're both teammates. They're going to work together and we'll be sort of stuck out of luck. So I put a big dig here, 600 plus watts to bridge this little gap, which again, wasted effort. This is an endurance situation in a road race, but we sort of had to make that dig because otherwise they were going to get back up to their teammates like we do here, and then we would have been in the dust basically. So, and here you go. This is where I finally lose the race. I made a shift and okay, dropped chain. This guy looks back. He's like, ooh, yikes, sorry, buddy. And I do a pretty quick, I get my chain back on pretty quick here. We only got like 10, 15 seconds maybe 20. But I think at this point, I'm just dead. And so, this idea that it's a cat and mouse game and there's some guys ahead of us that I need to get back on. I think they were actually sort of nice about it. That teammate who I was with most of the race, I think he had sort of been on the back end of that group of guys and maybe slowed down a little, thinking that I could put in a good dig here and get back up and sort of contribute to that group. And I'm only putting down 350 watts there, so it wasn't too much of an effort that I really tried to do to get back in. And I think you can see here, this is the closest I get back to getting back in. And I just didn't put enough effort to get back in, because you can see here, this would have been the closest I could have really done. But it's always the hardest, right? This little dig just to get right. It's the last 100, 200 meters. So I learned a lot this year. It was my first year of racing, and this was my first road race. One of those things being gapped wheels. It's really important to that if you're going to allow a gapped wheel and do a gradual effort to get back on that wheel, you just really got to be aware when it's too late, and that's really hard to do when you have not very much experience. Because if it's too late, you won't be able to get back up onto the wheel and stay in the race. The other thing is this fitness idea of practicing like you race. These 40-minute crits are very different from these 90-minute crits. So maybe I need to do a little bit more intervals and certain longer duration races. So this is my last video of this season, and cross season is coming up, so there'll be more videos soon. So be positive and encourage others, like I do here where the field catches me and I say, go get 'em, boys. Thanks for watching.